All right, everybody, welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into aircraft fuel system operator interviews, which is a pretty cool gig if you ask me. I mean, you're fueling the planes that keep us all connected.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. These folks are like the unsung heroes of aviation, making sure every flight takes off with the right amount of fuel. And these days, with more and more people flying, skilled aircraft fuel system operators are in higher demand than ever. So if you're thinking about a career in this field, this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely. So to help you ace that interview, we're going to be looking at RoleCatcher, this really cool platform that uses AI to analyze thousands of interview questions and gives you like personalized insights. And we'll be diving deep into some sample questions, figuring out what those interviewers are really looking for.
Exactly. We'll unpack those questions and use RoleCatcher's insights to help you craft answers that really stand out.
All right, let's get right into it. Our first question today is a classic. Can you describe your experience working with fuel systems in aircraft? Now, this might seem like a pretty straightforward question, but it's your chance to really showcase your knowledge and experience.
Yeah, this is where you go beyond just listing your past job titles. Think about it. The interviewer wants to see how you've actually applied your skills in real-world situations. So, did you work with any specific types of fueling systems? Any particular aircraft models? This is your moment to highlight those details.
It's all about painting a clear picture for them. Now, what about those who are just starting out? Let's say you don't have tons of on-the-job experience yet. What then?
That's where you get a little creative. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Did you take any relevant courses, internships maybe? Maybe you've got some cool personal projects that show off your passion for aviation.
Like, did you spend your weekends tinkering with engines in your garage?
Exactly, or volunteered at a local airfield, anything like that.
It all adds up. Okay, moving on to question number 2. How do you ensure proper fueling of aircraft and avoid over or under fueling? This one feels pretty crucial, right?
Oh, absolutely. Precision is key in this role. They want to know you understand that even a small mistake can have big consequences. So walk them through your process.
So like step by step.
Exactly. Start with how you check those fuel orders, how you double check your calculations.
And don't forget those trusty checklists.
Right. Mentioning those shows you're thorough and you don't cut corners. And here's a tip from RoleCatcher. Talk about any specific tools or technologies you've used for accurate fueling.
Shows you're up to date with the latest and greatest in the field. All right, next up we've got, how do you maintain and troubleshoot fuel system components? Now we're getting technical.
Time to show off those problem-solving skills.
Oh, real.
Be ready to talk about different components, pumps, filters, valves, the whole shebang. But remember, it's not just about knowing the names.
Right, it's about what you do with that knowledge.
Exactly. How do you approach a problem? Do you have a system, like a mental checklist? Do you use any diagnostic equipment?
This is where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy, right?
Yeah.
I remember reading about their AI-powered feedback for interview practice.
Oh, yeah. It's a game changer. It's like having a personal coach analyzing your answers, making sure you sound confident and you're hitting all the right points. Like, they might suggest mentioning specific industry standard diagnostic tools, stuff like that, which shows you're in the know. All right, question number 4, and this one's a biggie. How do you ensure compliance with regulations and safety procedures when fueling aircraft? I mean, it might seem like a no-brainer, but it's huge. Aviation safety is paramount, and the interviewer wants to see that you take those regulations very seriously.
So it's not enough to just say, oh yeah, I follow the rules.
Nope, you got to show them. Talk about specific regulations or agencies that are relevant to your region, like the FAA or IATA, for example. And don't forget to mention your training and how you stay updated on any changes. This industry is always evolving.
It's about demonstrating that proactive mindset. Okay, let's switch gears a bit with question 5. How do you monitor fuel levels during flight and ensure the safe landing of the aircraft? Now, isn't that more on the pilots?
You'd think so, but aircraft fuel system operators are a crucial part of that pre-flight process. You're calculating those fuel reserves, taking into account things like potential diversions, weather conditions.
You're like the fuel strategist.
Exactly. You're thinking ahead, making sure there's enough fuel to get from point A to point B, no matter what. So, be ready to talk about fuel consumption rates, how you factor in different variables.
Okay, question 6 brings us back down to earth a little bit. How do you ensure the safe storage and handling of fuel on the ground? This one seems pretty straightforward.
It might seem that way, but there's a lot to cover here. They want to know you're aware of the potential hazards and how to handle them like a pro.
We're talking fire prevention, spill containment, all that important stuff, right?
You got it. Discuss those proper storage procedures, hazard communication, what to do in an emergency, and this is another opportunity to bring up any safety certifications you have. RoleCatcher's Career Guide emphasizes how valuable those are.
It all goes back to that commitment to safety. And speaking of teamwork, question 7 delves right into that. How do you communicate with other team members during fueling operations?
Communication the key to success in any field, but especially aviation. You've got pilots, ground crew, air traffic control. It's like an orchestra, and you got to make sure everyone's in sync.
So how do you prove you're a team player?
Talk about your ability to convey information clearly and accurately, both verbally and in writing. And think about specific examples.
Like a time when clear communication was crucial. Maybe there was a fuel discrepancy or a sudden change in the weather.
Right. Those real-life examples show you can stay calm and collected under pressure, which is a highly valuable trait in this line of work. Now, before we move on to our next set of questions, I wanted to touch on something really interesting from RoleCatcher's Career Guide.
It talks about how important it is to keep learning and growing in this job. It's not enough to just get hired. You got to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, the aviation industry is always changing, right? New tech, new rules, you got to keep up. And the guide mentions some certifications that employers really like to see.
Like what? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, there's the NNOSP Fueling Specialist, for one, and then there's the IATA Fueling Training Program. Those are some big ones.
So it's like getting those certifications shows employers you're serious about your career. You're in it for the long haul.
For sure. And even just mentioning in an interview that you're working towards a certification, it shows initiative. It shows you're ambitious.
Love it. Okay, back to the interview questions. This next one is all about those little details. How do you ensure accuracy in fueling records and reports? Seems kind of basic, but...
Those records are super important. Safety audits, tracking fuel usage, spotting potential problems. It all comes down to accurate record keeping.
So how do we wow them with our answer?
Talk about your system. Do you double-check your work? Use any specific software? And make sure you emphasize that you understand why those records matter.
It's not just about filling out paperwork. It's about safety and efficiency and all that. Okay, last question in this set. How do you stay updated on industry developments and changes related to aircraft fuel systems?
This is where you show them you're a lifelong learner, always curious, always growing.
Because like you said, things change fast in aviation.
Exactly. So do you subscribe to industry magazines, go to conferences?
What about those online forums? I bet there's a ton of good stuff on there.
Totally. And if you've taken any recent training courses or workshops, definitely mention that.
It's all about painting that picture of someone who's adaptable and eager to learn. Now, before we move on, I got to ask about one of RoleCatcher's coolest features, that interview practice with AI feedback thing. It's like having your own personal interview coach.
Oh man, it's a game changer. You practice answering questions and their AI analyzes everything, your words, your tone, even your body language.
That's wild. So instead of just winging it, you get personalized tips to improve your performance.
Yeah, it helps you catch those little things you might not notice yourself. Like maybe you're using too many ums and ahs, or your posture's not great.
And that kind of feedback can make all the difference. I know when I was starting out.
And don't forget about their CV resume builder, too. It's like having a professional resume writer in your back pocket.
Right. The AI analyzes your skills, matches them up with what employers are looking for.
It makes sure you're putting your best foot forward, highlighting the stuff that really makes you stand out.
Sounds like RoleCatcher has really thought of everything to give candidates an edge. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive on aircraft fuel system operators, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Well, it looks like we're about to touch down on this deep dive into the world of aircraft fuel system operators.
We sure have covered a lot, that's for sure, from those technical details to the bigger picture of what a career in this field really looks like. And we can't forget about how AI is changing the game, right? With platforms like RoleCatcher, you've got these amazing tools to help you prepare for those interview questions.
It's true. Having those resources and that kind of personalized feedback can make you feel so much more confident walking into that interview room.
For sure. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, that idea of continuous learning. It's not a one-and-done kind of job.
It's so important. Aviation is constantly evolving, so you've got to keep learning and growing if you want to stay at the top of your game as an aircraft fuel system operator. New technology pops up all the time, regulations change.
So for someone just starting out, what would you recommend? How do they keep up with everything?
Never lose that curiosity, Always be looking for ways to learn and grow. Go to those industry conferences, talk to people who've been doing it for a while, and check out those training programs. They can be super valuable.
He's like you said, be a lifelong learner. Always ask questions and never stop exploring.
Exactly. And don't be shy about reaching out to people in the industry. Building those relationships is so important. You never know what doors might open or what insights you might gain. Mentorship is huge, too.
Speaking of career paths, I was really impressed by RoleCatcher's Career Compass. It's like a personalized roadmap for your career.
It's such a cool tool. Helps you figure out your strengths, what you're really good at, and then it shows you different career paths you could take within the field. Even suggests courses or certifications to help you reach your goals.
It's like having a personal career counselor right there in your pocket. Guides you towards a path that's both fulfilling and rewarding.
Exactly. And I think that's so important in any career, but especially aviation. There are just so many possibilities out there, so many ways to specialize and grow.
Well, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close. Before we sign off, any last nuggets of wisdom for our listeners?
Just go for it. The aviation industry is full of incredible opportunities if you've got the passion and dedication to succeed. And don't be afraid to ask for help or advice along the way. Every challenge is a chance to learn and grow.
Words to live by. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of aircraft fuel system operators. We hope you learned a lot and feel inspired to pursue your dreams in aviation.
It's been a pleasure. Remember, with the right preparation, a commitment to excellence, and maybe a little help from tools like RoleCatcher, the sky's the limit.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for the stars.